The world is a culmination of mirrors that reflect right back at you the stories you've already told. It doesn't seek to change, alter, or adjust. In fact, it doesn't do anything. It's neutral. It is simply a collection of parts waiting to be put together. A series of characters awaiting a story. If you're hopeful, you'll find contained within your surroundings hope. If you're hateful, you'll find hate. Loving, you'll find love. Optimistic, you'll find optimism. And skeptical, you'll find doubt. Life reflects your preconceived notions back at you. Which is technically great news, right? I can't think of anything more empowering than the idea that we decide what the occurrences around us ultimately mean. And I'm not suggesting that if one closes their eyes and dreams, life becomes free of problems or obstacles. I'm saying when our walls fall, we get to decide what that means, if, when, and where we build again. And this is evident in the fact that some don't look for value, hence the proclivity to walk right by it. Others teach themselves to seek it out, even in the most unlikely of places. We'll never be able to control the weather. But as Bob Marley famously put it, some people feel the rain, others just get wet. In a lot of ways, we don't get to choose what the world around us looks like, but are given the power to decide what it all becomes, which is the precursor to change, to a life of freedom and abundance. The ability to interpret is monumental. It is strength. Because there will be a time when life becomes difficult, when you lose your way, and it becomes evident in those moments just how easy it is to find the negative, to see why you can't go on, why your adversaries are too strong and too numerous. But it's also when, if you can dig deep and find within yourself a reason to not shrink because of it, but grow despite it, your potential becomes limitless. If life's obstacles become opportunities and its supposed problems empower you, then you have made allies with an otherwise hostile world. You have disarmed the only thing capable of slowing you down, you, and open the door to a world of possibility. When you find the courage, you walk out your front door and realize darkness is not a permanent state, but the absence of light. And you have within your soul fire sufficient to set the world ablaze. You don't make what you need, you are what you need. A piece of the infinite. Descendant of stars, proof of the impossible. When you find the courage, you alter the very story being etched into the sands of time. An undertaking that makes one's knees shake and hands tremble, a decision that costs the ability to avoid discomfort. When you find the courage, living is at the expense of that which must now die. And to turn the door handle in front of you means closing the one from which you came. Courage is deciding that watching life through a window is no longer sufficient.
That what you have is not a product of the way things should be, but how you've allowed them to unfold. See, a choice is not a thing, a choice is an action. A deliberate decision to see life differently. To see your circumstances differently, to see your outcomes differently, to see your trials and tribulations differently. What you don't know is a gift, willing to reveal itself and lift you up should you find the courage. This world has seen empires rise and fall. It's brought in the new, cleansed itself of the old, and chapter by chapter the present becomes the past, culminating into the laws by which we operate. All of them stand upon a foundation of courage, conscious decisions for more, to change things, to be better, do better, to advance the rate in which better is obtained. In a world of noise, clutter, if you remember one thing, remember this: you have nothing to lose. How could you, when we operate in an arena that simply waits for us to inject meaning into it? Just like the chapter before you, your last page will ultimately turn. But what do you want those words to say? What stories do you want told? How much meaning do you want to pour into the words that will forever emanate off the lips of those that come after you? Because the day you're experiencing, the thoughts dancing around in your head, the air pouring through your lungs, they are zero obligation and 100% opportunity, a thing of beauty. That is why we must find the courage to step out, to see what we can pull from the universe. It's not greedy or selfish or irresponsible. It's why you were put on this planet. To make the most of your ride, to create magic. So leave the excuses, stop thinking through a lens of scarcity, and find the courage to redraw reality's parameters. Push them further and further back until nothing is out of the realm of possibility, until you've realized the control you've had from day one as you watched life through a window and wondered what it could bring you. Find the courage to answer that question and never look back. That to find ourselves requires we must first lose ourselves, is, I believe, life's greatest paradox. Leaving that carousel of comfort, the predictability of what we know, the certainty of who we believe ourselves to be, for a promise with no real guarantee of being kept, well, it's nothing short of irrational. Are the odds in our favor? Perhaps not. But by stepping off, by placing our bets on a different track with a different prize at a different time, we have increased those odds from 0 to, well, I guess we decide. And see, the world teaches us that it's advantageous to spin. A spinning carousel is predictable, it can't be cheated, there's very little room for loss, or humiliation, or setbacks, or even life to get in the way. You know where you start, and you know where you end, and that's just the thing. This spinning world is so easy that people don't want to leave. In fact, it's not until you walk away from the crowd that you even face the unknown. And that's precisely why it's so hard to walk alone. It's hard, it's challenging because of the now. Not because the now can't be measured or understood. No, we get it. But because there's this little whisper in the back of our heads that the now might go on and on and on forever, that check will never be cashed, the summit never reached. No,
just footsteps down a perpetually long, windy road. And that's, when maybe, just maybe, we miss that carousel. We miss the safety and security. And that's what sometimes makes it such a stressful thing to walk alone. We think about all of ourselves, our mind, our heart we've left behind along the way. Truths we now have to face, things they never taught us on that carousel. We had to learn that we were wrong about who'd be by our side through it all. We could no longer hide behind the notion that when things got tough, someday everything would be there, would be the same. We learned to swim by jumping into the deep end, seeing in real time that people only believe what already exists, what's put in front of them, that ideas are empty, that a dream is a language only spoken by its creator. And if you want it to mean anything, you must dedicate your life to translating it. We learn how much is backwards, how much of life is reactive, that success is being one of the few who don't react, but build a world to react to. And in the thick of it all, to internalize the process, because talking does nothing. Plans are just potential energy confined to your pocket. You have to be okay growing that seed by yourself. Like a runner making her way past a crowd, right? The crowd sees calm, sees peace, sees the finesse of an athlete gliding over the pavement. They have no idea the war being fought behind her eyes. The silencing of constant whispers to slow down, to do less, the repression of pain that consumes her to such an extent it can't even really be pinpointed. It just kind of floats over her body. They'll never know that. And what we learn is that they don't need to. It's the truth. And see, it's also what makes it quite lonely to walk alone. Walking alone, well, it's a lot of things. But it's never boring. It's never dull. And if you can hang in there long enough without even noticing the headwind you've been fighting, it becomes a tailwind. And where we may have felt alone, the idea pops into our heads that maybe that's not quite right. If anything, the wind at our back is now momentum. It's a partner along the way. That carousel, yeah, it's still spinning, but somewhere else. Some far-off place beyond our field of vision. And no, things don't ever become easy. We wouldn't want that. But difficulty is interpreted differently now. Not a burden, but a cost, and one we'd gladly continue to pay. And that space that once felt so empty, so desolate, so helpless, well, now it's made up of people who see what you see, who hopped off their own carousels and wandered through the desert. They too navigated through the impossible and the never been done. It's funny how at some point we always find each other. And I suppose now, having traded the carousels for the adventure, we can walk alone together. Us against the world. Standing up in defiance of the odds, chasing that glimmer of hope. All in on a pursuit to find what most won't and see what most can't. Not because we were made different, but because we chased down the idea of different. It gets a tough rap walking alone. And in so many ways, it's a fight. It takes all of you. But you don't come out the same person you were when you stepped in. The same person you'd still be today had you stayed on that carousel. So if you are still spinning, step off. And if you have, if you're still adjusting to the discomfort of reality, if you're making your way through the hell of uncertainty or questioning whether you have what it takes or have the strength to commit, I promise you do. In fact, you're right where you need to be. So don't be distracted by those screaming of their successes or communicating, capturing every small win as they make their way around the carousel. It's the quiet ones who change themselves. The ones who take life one step at a time, one battle at a time, who redefine reality. And I'm sure you can't see it now. No one can. No one can see the sun amidst the storm, but you'll emerge. Stronger than you ever were. You will navigate towards the ideal and away from that life you once settled for. It's a long path, but it's worth it. So get up and let your feet guide the way. Let's go walk alone. Before you can ever get to where you're going, you have to decide to begin. You have to acknowledge that what you're chasing means more to you than what you are leaving behind. And then begins the greatest adventure you will ever experience. Knowing that you have turned someday into right now. That the road beneath you is waving you on, the wind at your back, it pushes you forward. There are no guarantees in life, but that just might be what makes it so incredible. You'll only go as far as you allow your imagination to take you. Whether it's the end of your driveway, or where the sun and the ocean intersect.
Oh, to be stuck. Those moments in time where the world we've anticipated, the one that we've hoped for, well, it's not quite matching up with the one we're looking at. Those times where you stop and think, aren't I supposed to get out what I put in? Isn't the point of planning to have some type of control, some semblance of authority over the outcome? How do I get those worlds to align? I've been thinking a lot about how paradoxical life is, how what we fear is often the exact same thing we need most. How what we're terrified of is where we find our courage, it's where we become more. How when we look ourselves in the mirror and have no clue at that moment in time who the hell is looking back, well, that moment is when it all begins. Bingo. Here's what I think. I think being stuck is the blessing that we didn't know we needed, because at that moment in time, it begs us to be what we're not. It opens the curtain and unveils something that's so necessary, so imperative, yet so overlooked. Here's what the last decade of my life has taught me. It's taught me that until you're back is against the wall. Until you're up to your neck in regrets, in I wish, in opportunities passed by. Until you realize that your reality is a fraction, a microcosm of your potential, you're not living. Because once you find that realization, well, that is when the magic happens. That's when we become who we might be. See, anyone can dance when the music is playing, but this moment, this is a special one. This is when you dance to silence. This is when you compose. I want to share with you an idea, a concept that's gotten me through the worst times. It's gotten me through times where I felt like I had nothing left, where I felt lost, unsure, underappreciated, where I felt like this world had absolutely nothing out there for me, that I was going to be a statistic, another dude who tried, failed, and quit. It's this. It's that you are always one decision, one move, one step away from a totally different life. Not sometimes or during the best of times, but always. And I'm not talking about the home run ball. I mean, sure, those are great, but they're shooting stars, the anomaly. I'm talking about getting on base. I'm talking about, one, believing there's a journey out there, that it's possible, and two, that you are worthy of that pursuit. Can you do one thing that makes you, even for a moment of time, remember who you are, feel the power, the contentment, the adrenaline of momentum? See, the road to redemption is always a light switch away. We just have to remember to reach for it. I love the idea that darkness is a temporary state. It's in its definition. Darkness is nothing more than an absence of light, calling on us to come in and be that flicker, that spark that changes the dynamic of everything. No miracle, no monumental situation, just a spark that grows and grows and becomes the wildfire that changes your reality. The same one that's existed in your soul the entire time. You're not stuck. You're simply starting. Yesterday might have been brutal. It might have been life-changing. It might have been so exhausting that it's hard to look back and even comprehend. But when that storm passes, and they all do, they leave us renewed. Sometimes learning we can survive is the best gift we receive. Because guess what? Life threw everything but the kitchen sink at you, and you're still here, still standing, a little wiser, a little braver, a little stronger, a little better prepared for whatever comes next. Not defined by the storm, but what you do in its wake, what you build with the pieces. Listen, today is yours. All you have to do is decide to reach out and make it so.